Oh, what's going on, everybody? This is an interesting dual episode with Marcos and I. On this episode, we're gonna do a little micro bite here
Yes, sir.
on a topic called the microbiome. Your gut health, the microbiome, right, Marcos? How you like that?
That was a good segue. Uh, yeah, the that's great. The gut microbiome. So we can think of this as like the collection of all the bacteria, the fungi, and all the microorganisms, everything micro today, right? That
I know,
actually
right?
live in the gut. And of course, these are all something that we're trying to see whether or not it plays a huge role in digestion, nutrient absorption, and also immune function. And there's been a lot of research on this. I've probably listened to quite a few, podcasts that had it. So I think this is a great little quickie to touch on. So,
Yeah,
um,
I'd say we can talk about maybe like best practices with the gut microbiome.
mm,
Maybe like a
yeah,
few
yeah,
of ours, like a top two to three for me, a top two to three for you.
sweet.
In terms of the gut microbiome, I'm very, I'm very aware of my gut microbiome just because I have psoriasis. For those that you guys don't know, and with psoriasis, there may be an inclination that it can be from a gut disorder, whether that's a dysbiosis or just something inflamed in the gut. It may not be. It's just that's been seen to be part of it. So, some of the things that I do personally do is I follow. I've tried everything. I've done like vegan. I've done plant based. I've done carnivore. What I've actually realized is I actually do need a normal balanced diet that does require some carbs, require some things because for some reason it's not as bad when I just have like a normal diet. The second thing I actually do is I actually get a lot of kombucha for my gut. Obviously probiotics and prebiotics and things like that. But the kombucha for me, um, honestly, some of them literally even say happy gut, like happy life, right?
Right.
Happy gut, happy. I'm just being honest, with the serotonin being primarily in that gut, and that does have a big uh, correspondence to your vagal tone and the vagal nerve. I honestly feel a lot calmer, cooler, collected after I have kombucha. I think a kombucha a day will keep the psychiatrist away, kind of thing. Because I'm like, honestly, like I feel calm and I feel collected. I feel like it's for me, it's a way to de stress. And then the last thing I'm doing right now, I'm actually doing something, and I don't necessarily recommend this until you talk to a doc or anything like that. I'm playing with my gut microbiome a little bit to help with the cell walls, the lining, the epithelial tissue. I am supplementing a little bit with different things, some psyllium husk, some other supplement, like, indigestible fibers, whether that's like asparagus or like, um, you know, other foods like that. And then I'm using BP1, BPC-157, the peptide, right, Marcos? It's like a healing peptide, but it's found in the gut. But I'm just using like a really concentrated version of this amino acid to really just help my gut. So that's what I'm doing right now, just to help with some gut issues, some microbiome. And I can tell you right now, those things, especially the kombucha and the BBC, have just been really helpful for like feeling healthier, not bloated, and also at the same time just feeling good with like just my movement and things like that.
Yeah, it's good. You didn't even mention there's no supplemental form. It's all like kind of food derivatives for the stuff that you're using, correct?
Yeah, the only supplemental thing that I'm like really going hard on is probably like the psyllium husk.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it's all food derived pretty much. It's all food derived.
Yeah, because I think I found it a lot of the other, podcasts out there talking about a few of the analyses, meta-analyses about like getting it from a food derived source versus it being just straight supplements, and is the
Hmm.
supplement worth the cost? And um individual results may vary, but again, based on all the more documented literature, it's like working it in through a food group that's been kind of, maybe not as popularized for a lot of cultures. Like eating pickled things or fermented stuff is like, it's like culturally different to talk
Oh yeah,
about.
that's what I forgot to mention. I do a lot of like kimchi, sauerkraut, yogurt, things like that, kefir. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's my biggest one is like learn to like and maybe make your own, right? Because I mean, while pickling at home is probably not going to be bringing in a ton of like bacteria. I mean, there's there's something to it that maybe it starts adjusting your palate to enjoy some of those like more acidic and fermented foods. I think
Yeah.
it's a great way of um, changing the focus and the shift into something that's very, very different on the palate. And then you learn to like those things. And shoot, I mean, if there was a way to have like some fermented onions, dude, I'd be all about it. I pickle them myself, and
Yeah.
so I think experimenting with the different foods, find some ones you like, try different brands. So that's like my big one. I really like Cleveland Kitchen. They actually have like fermented dressings. And it's like, well, how much does
Mm.
it help? I'm like, well, it's low calorie and it has great tasting dressings that are, again, you're not trying to use a ton of it. You're trying to use something macro friendly in addition to it. So like I've found
Dang, yeah.
great options there. And if you have a Sprouts, and sometimes at Whole Foods they have this particular brand, and you can also look them up on their website. And that's not a plug. That's purely just something that I've really enjoyed. And man, their Caesar dressing, dude, their Caesar
All
dressing is
right.
bomb. You know, throw a
Gonna go
bunch
get
of
some
lemon
later
in it, and
today.
it's really good. It's really good. I think again too, and this is debatable, right? Like fiber sources are getting ample fiber. You know, I guess my general rule of thumb personally is like roughly, you know, a gram for every 10 grams of carbohydrate consumed, right? I think that's kind of how it is, like, or 10% of like their actual total should potentially be dietary
Yeah.
fiber. I feel
Some people
like,
say like some people
again,
like they're like up to 40 grams or something like that. I guess I don't know.
I've had people function, they don't really feel normal unless they're getting like 60, 70, 80 grams of fiber. You know, it's weird. They're like, that's
Hmm.
where I feel the best and I'm not bloated. And it's like, oh, maybe you just need it to push things through. So I think that's similar to you using the psyllium husk. I might get
Yeah.
more, you know, try to remove a lot of the processed stuff from the eating and get more like sprouted oatmeal, right? Great fiber source.
Mm.
And also,
Yeah.
you know, something that can actually have a little more protein because it's been sprouted. Um,
Yeah.
and that's going to actually, that's the prebiotic. That's, you know, that's a fiber. Fiber sources are great. You know, things like artichokes, like working those things on. And, you know, I use those as like toppings or additions into like the normal eating stuff. Also helps with
Yeah.
fullness. So, um, I think the other thing too that I try to do to improve my gut health is, lately it's been like taking ownership of my stress before eating, really trying to be a little more present and chew my food so that it's not just like me stuffing my face. And again, mastication or chewing is the beginning part of digestion. And if you're not spending enough time chewing, you could then lead to some distension because it's sitting in the gut longer. So that's just a very um, obvious thing to do. It doesn't even, you know, have anything to do with adding like things to like deal with like cultured food. Um, I guess that's why it means to culture yourself. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, those are
Yeah.
probably my big three, right? Like seeking out more fermented foods, throwing it on my dishes more often. And again, a little goes a long way. Like a serving for most of these things is like an ounce. So you might just start with
Yeah.
one and you're going to be, you know, you can kind of it just, you know, maybe you don't like the taste of kimchi, but one ounce might be like, oh man, like my bowel movements the next day are like money, you know, like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I
And it
mean,
can just be
those are,
mixed in too, like into like a because I know we both kind of eat similar, where we just kind of eat in a way of like mashing things together. Like I personally just
hmm
like for example, like the other day I did do some form of the pickled like it's not the kimchi, it's that pickled like purple. What's that purple thing? It's like because we had like Mediterranean, so what they have is that Mediterranean like thing. I forgot
yeah,
what
it's
it
like,
is.
yeah, it's like like they do like a cabbage thing. There's just
It's like
so
a fermented
many.
cabbage. Yeah, yeah. So it's like a fermented cabbage. I love it. It's a little sour, but like it was part of my meal because it was like in a cup, and I was like, okay, cool. So I had like 6 ounces of ground beef. I put all the spring mix in there, and then just a little bit of like garlic, and then I toss that in there, and it adds so much bulk to it. But like it makes the food really cool. And sometimes you can't eat that by yourself. Sometimes like you have to mix it in with something. So I just like to mix all this stuff, and you won't even notice it.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think realistically here, a lot of the newer research. So again, like we're all like nutrition is like an ever evolving science, right? So
Yeah.
you know, getting familiar with things that have pre and probiotics, you know, just take a look at it, find some sources, the benefits. Like you mentioned, psoriasis or almost like autoimmune related issues could maybe see some benefits from it.
Yeah.
IBS participants have been shown to see that significantly improve
Yeah.
because of the reduction of like the bloating and the pain. I think it's because it does like, you know, it's like has some effervescence to it. Like you can't really just mow it down. You have to sit there and kind of chew it. It's not like you're just going to go through a shit ton of it like you can like a
Yeah, you
processed food
can't.
item, right?
Yeah, that's not something that like you can like put down like gummy worms or like I mean or like candy or something. It's like something you have to mull over, chew, and kind of get used to. And like once it becomes part of your daily, weekly kind of food calendar, it's like it's really it's a nice touch. It honestly is.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, great sources of probiotics. Just kind of wrap this all up, right? Like you already mentioned it: yogurt, kefir or kefir, kombucha, tempeh, miso, sauerkraut, kimchi, pickles. You got to find fermented ones, and even sourdough bread has some probiotics in
Yeah.
it. So that one is probably going to be absorbed really well. And so that covers our probiotics. Let's talk about prebiotics. Prebiotics would be things that are fiber related that are found maybe in legumes, whole grains, bananas, onions, garlic, asparagus, Jerusalem artichokes, chicory root,
That is, yeah.
dandelion greens, and psyllium husk, like Seamus has mentioned as well. So
Yeah.
um, that's not an all-inclusive list, but that's a good place to start. It's like, man, maybe try some of that. You could maybe even try some natto, which I've had recently at sushi, and it's like I actually look forward to it now. But it's kind of like stinky and different, and I
It's
don't
a
know.
it's a
It's just
little it's a it, anytime I have sushi or anything like that, when you ask for it, it's like it's an acquired thing, and sometimes I don't necessarily
oh
look
for sure.
forward to it.
It's you. It's like I don't know. It's like I don't. It like rounds out the meal though. Now it has like a lot of umami, but like as a
Yeah.
younger kid, I'd be like, hell no, that looks gross. It smells kind of weird at first, and then you try it, and you're like, you know what? Like, I don't know. Like, and in my head, I was like, oh, but this has health benefits too. You know, I was like, all right,
Has a
whatever.
lot of new
Like,
studies on it. That's like really good stuff. Like really reduces a lot of the stuff, and I was like, oh yeah,
mhm,
I should try that. And you know what? You reminded me. I gotta go get some soon.
some natto. Yeah,
Uh,
actually, it's actually really common in I think it's Japanese culture breakfasts, and I was like, I wouldn't know if I would
yeah.
really want this for breakfast, but then I thought about it. It's like it actually almost makes you stop eating because it's so unique in flavor and you can't have a ton of it. So I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, maybe there is something there to finding foods that like you a little bit goes a long way because you're like, I can't really eat a ton of this. And having that there again might just like kind of be a way to help you govern it. So um
Yeah.
yeah, any closing thoughts, Seamus? I think this is a good spot to wrap
No,
up.
I honestly, I think, as a microbiome on the microbiome, I think, take this for what it is. Like we have our experiences here, and I think in our daily community, I mean, in our culture in America, I think it's even more apparent that you need to include some of these because in Mediterranean cultures, Japanese cultures, like we're talking about, in like different cultures, like these foods are built in. Sometimes in your culture, in your day to day life, they might not have been built in. So keep an open mind. Try a rotating menu. Try a rotating shopping list. Go to these different places like Sprouts, Whole Foods, or wherever you can find it online and try it out. Doesn't have to be everything that we talked about, but just keep an open mind and see what can help you. And next thing you know, who knows, you might find a new food that you love, and yeah, it's going to be exciting for you.
Good stuff. All right, guys. Thank you again for listening to this microbite on the microbiome. Um, if you want to hear a little bit more, we'd love to get some comments and thoughts below. If you can, also maybe give us a subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, that'd be great. It helps us grow the channel. And outside of that, we will catch you guys on our next episode with one of our amazing guests or just the two of us where we're shooting the breeze.